Yo, welcome to the show, BroMob. We're your hosts, Chad and Brian. Today is Tuesday, December 3rd, and we are in December, ladies and gentlemen. You know what that means? We in the playoffs. We in the gutsy games. We're here to win.
Yes.
We're gonna get some dubs. We're gonna get some victories up in here.
Ho, ho, ho. Merry fantasy football playoffs, miss.
Of course, if you didn't make the playoffs, it's not as nice as what we just painted. It's much more. It's like Nightmare Before Christmas. You know that monster that lives underneath the stairs, or the clown that takes his face off. That's what you are right now.
I was thinking the Oogie Boogie Man from yeah, you know, because he's the Oogie Boogie Man.
Who were those little kids?
Those were the what were they called? The Helpers? No, I don't know.
Were they just
That's a good movie.
trick-or-treaters?
So here's a question: is that a Christmas movie or is that a Halloween movie?
I think it's a Christmas movie. Personally. However, the movie does start with the song "This Is Halloween."
Best song ever. This is Halloween.
Yeah.
This is Halloween. Pumpkin scream in the dead of night.
Thank
That's
you.
right.
Thank you for
I
that.
can sing the whole thing.
In this town, don't you
We
love
go
it
home,
now?
everyone dance to the pumpkin song. La, la, la. Oh my God. Now I need to watch that movie.
I need to watch that movie 17 times now.
Yes,
Just
in a row. No
Ooh.
sleep.
No surrender.
sleep. Yeah. Makes a lot of sense.
All right, bro, Mom. We got a lot to go on about this show today, so we're just going to get right into it. We got our Week 13 fantasy recap, our genius picks, our not so genius picks, and always the waiver review, our waiver playoff targets, and so on and so forth. Let's get into the show. But first, be sure to follow along after the show by following us on Twitter and Instagram at FF Bros Podcast and search that hashtag BroMob. Let's get into it, guys. Fantasy Weekly Recap. Starting off this week, we've got the Bears-Lions game, of which Mitch Trubisky threw for 300 yards in this game, Brian. It was the first time in the last 16 games. Not kidding. His last 16 games. Why did you put "let's moo"? Like cows. We're going to moo like cows.
Yes.
Wonderful game for Trubisky. And wonderful game for David Blau. Or Blow, whatever his name is. Whatever his name might be. He plowed.
I believe it's the Dracula version. David Bleh.
Okay. I was
David
thinking
Bleh.
like the guy from Step Brothers that goes, Blow! Blow, blow!
Yeah, that's right. That's a good point too.
Because that's what he was doing. He was blowing all over the place. Second play from scrimmage was a 75-yard touchdown to Kenny Golladay, instantly shutting up my sit of Kenny Golladay, and I sat there in sadness. Because after that, it was just an absolute throw out of a game. Kenny G, 4 catches, 158, and touchdown. Marvin Jones, 3 catches, 40 yards, a touchdown. And then, like I said, Trubisky had 300 yards in this game. So Anthony Miller, 9 catches, 140 yards. Allen Robinson, 8 catches, 86 yards, and a touchdown. Called the sleeper status there. And you got a little bit on the ground, too, with David Montgomery, who had over 15 touches in the game and a receiving touchdown. Let's move into the Bills-Cowboys game, where we had Josh Allen, who was just the second quarterback this season with 20-plus fantasy points against the Cowboys this season. Brian, who's the other one? Don't look. Oh, you're already looking.
Looking. I don't know. I can't.
It's
My brain
Jeff
doesn't work.
Driscoll was the other
Drisk.
quarterback that had done so. So, Josh Allen, good game against a pretty decent defense. With that, though, Josh Allen's been a stud pretty much all season. He's had 16 rushing touchdowns since 2018. That is the most, ladies and gentlemen, against all quarterbacks in the league. He's got 17-plus fantasy points in 8 straight games, which is also the longest streak among active QBs. Longer, in fact, than Lamar Jackson, who's been going off all season. This guy's been a stud. Keep him in your lineups. He's a plug-and-play from now on. Or not a plug-and-play, a close your eyeballs, hit play listen to it a couple times and enjoy it. Zeke had fewer than 100 rushing yards in his 4th straight game, though he had a good fantasy outing. It just wasn't the type of outing you were looking for from Zeke. Cole Beasley destroyed his previous team with over 100 yards receiving and a touchdown. And then finally, a nice little tidbit of information here, Brian. Michael Gallup has 6+ targets in 9 of 10 games this season, the games that he's played. So he's having himself a nice little quiet season as a wide receiver 2 flex option.
Galleon up.
Hated it.
No? Oh, I loved it. So I believe what you were trying to say is that he's a bleh. So, all right, Chad, moving on. Saints Falcons was a game that I expected this to be much more of an aerial assault, at least, especially on the Saints side of the ball. It was not that, at least not on the Saints side. Matt Ryan, 35 of 50, 35 completion to 50 attempts, I'm trying to say. 300 yards. Sounds good, right? 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. I don't know if you watched the end of this game. It was pitiful. Matt Ryan should be embarrassed. The team should be embarrassed. They literally collected, I almost said. They literally
Mario
completed,
stars.
Yes, collected 30 Mario stars in a row. No, onside kicks, man. They had 3 onside kicks. They got all 3 of them. 2 of them were actual legal onside kicks. One came back from a penalty, and then they got it again. So it was unbelievable. They had every opportunity to win this game, and they could not pull it off. Matt Ryan, you're terrible. And then, Drew Brees on the other side of the ball threw for a mind-blowing 184 yards. So this was not the spectacular aerial assault type of game that we expected. And then the 49ers Ravens, Chad, this was a great game on Sunday. Opened up Sunday's midday games, and a lot of weather on the East Coast this week, and it really came in. We put up some stuff on Twitter. I don't know if you follow us on Twitter. It was also on Facebook as well, but on our website we had a weather report that went up, and this game started with an all-out downpour. It was just pouring rain. It looked like it was going to be a mud bowl. It looked really, really cool. So anyway, Lamar Jackson, 4 games, over 100 yards rushing this season, most by a quarterback in a single season since 1950. Ooh. 1950. Sounds like New York City. Chunky Campbell's Chunky Soup or Chili or whatever it was.
What is happening?
1950. Right, I don't know, man. Just what went off in my brain. So, Raheem Mostert had a touchdown 2 straight weeks now. Mark Andrews absolutely beasted. He's had 4 touchdowns in the last 3 games. He's going nutty again to end the season. He was nutty to start the season, went blank quiet there for a little bit. Now he back. Deebo Samuel, big game, over 100 yards receiving. So a lot of points came from this game for sure. And it was an enjoyable game to watch. Ravens won it right at the last minute there.
Yeah, it was a good game. It's one of those possible future games that we might be seeing. But moving on,
future.
Moving on, we've got the Redskins-Panthers game, and this was a bit of a head-scratcher of a game. The Panthers, Brian, this is an interesting stat, and it's something that I want to look towards for fantasy purposes because it just shows that they're not doing well in these portions of the season. The Panthers are 3-11 in November and December over the last 2 seasons. I don't know if that's a matter of just players getting fatigued or if they don't like the cold. I'm not sure because it could be both. I don't know. But apparently they don't like it. They don't do well in it. DJ Moore does, however, do well. He has 9 games of double-digit scoring this season, which is incredible. And then the Panthers have allowed 22 rushing touchdowns this season, Brian. It's the most in the NFL. And in the last 9 straight games, they've allowed at least 1 rushing touchdown or more. Get your players in. Whoever played the Panthers, get those running backs in stat. Little guy that we like to give a nickname of this. Miami guy showed up for this game. He had 10 carries for 129 yards, 2 touchdowns. He added 2 catches for 8 yards. Not much there, but some points for those catches. But man, he had himself a game. Darius Geis might be looking to explode at the end of the season here. We called it. We said to pick this guy up. He looks good. He feels good. He plays good.
Yeah, you know who else had a good game? Adrian Peterson had a good game. 1 yard shy of 100-yard rushing, had a touchdown on the day towards the end of the game. So, good to see Peterson involved as well.
You know who didn't look good, Brian? The Jets, who played the Bengals. Andy
Not
Dalton's
expected.
back, right?
Well,
I mean, Jesus.
So here's the thing. I didn't see this coming. I just want to interject. What happened? There were so many games this week that I'm like, what happened? What is this? So
this was a weird week.
One of them. This Jets Bengals game. Andy Dalton.
Yeah.
B, Sam Darnold. Like, what happened? Where did you go, dude? Like,
yeah,
you were my stream. You were my stream this week, man, and you punched me right in the Netherlands.
Yeah,
okay?
he did the monkey straight out of the stadium is what he did. He just straight Johnny Bravo'd right out of the stadium, chasing some girl that he saw in the distance, trying to get mono again. Le'Veon Bell also must have just followed Sam Darnold because he did not do well again. He still hasn't reached 100 yards in a game this season, which is unbelievable to me. But we got Joe Mixon, who has had 15-plus rushing attempts, not just touches, but rushes in the last 5 straight games. They're looking to use him a lot more. Kind of mentioned this before. The team's pretty much doomed, right? So why not just lean on your running back, get these games over with, and start moving into the next season? His score in the second quarter was actually the first rushing touchdown that the Jets have allowed in the last 6 games. So Mixon and heating up? Question mark. I like him. Looking good. And then finally, Tyler Boyd, who I also liked going forward, had 5 catches, had 10 targets on the game. He has a lot of games like this where he has double-digit targets. So 5 catches, 59 yards, and a touchdown. Had a decent game.
Yeah, Chad, the next game here on the docket was Titans-Colts. No weather involved here. Colts play indoors. So Derrick Henry had a big game, over 100 rushing yards. First time against the Colts since back in 2017, I believe, week 15. He's had 100 plus rushing yards in 3 straight games now. So Derrick Henry getting ready to win a lot of people fantasy playoffs, that's for sure. And the Titans have allowed 7 or more receptions to a wide receiver in 5 straight games. So if you own a wide receiver and you're lining them up, look for anybody that's playing the Titans. They're probably going to have a decent game, especially if they're wide receiver 1. And that speaks true to a guy that I personally am super hot about this year, or the rest of this year, I should say, and that's wide receiver Zach Pascal on the Indianapolis Colts. I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit later in the show here about him, but 10 targets in this game, 7 catches, 109 yards, no T.Y. Hilton in this game, and maybe no T.Y. Hilton the rest of the season. So, we'll see, but probably most likely for the rest of the fantasy season anyway. So I would highly target Zach Pascal moving forward. Another game here, Chad, was the Buccaneers-Jaguars game. This was played in Jacksonville. Nick Foles got benched in this game for Minshew. Minshew came in, looked instantly better. Then he threw an interception. So it was just like, well, all right, Minshew's throwing an interception. Foles is throwing an interception. We have a quarterback controversy here in Jacksonville, that's for sure. I got a side question for you, though. If you're the GM of this team and you're looking into next year, I mean, the Jaguars aren't going anywhere. They're not going to go to the playoffs. So who would you rather have, the shoe or Foles?
Always.
I mean, put
the shoe.
I knew that. Okay, so here's the deal. Put your shoe love aside. Who you rolling out there, Foles or shoe?
Gardner Minshew. I mean, he's not gonna give you a better chance to win. Not just gonna give you a better chance to win, in my opinion, but he's also gonna get you the jersey sales. He's gonna bring in the fans, right? I mean, you got to make money still. You're an NFL franchise. You still got to make some money to be viable. Nick Foles doesn't bring the excitement that Gardner Minshew does. And Gardner Minshew seems to have gotten the respect of his team. Whereas Foles, where he had the respect of his team back in Philly, it seems like Nick Foles doesn't quite have that with the Jaguars right now.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. What's not to respect? It's Gardner Minshew. I mean, the team looks at him. He just radiates a man, like just manhood. And Minshew. Everybody goes, yeah, that's our leader right there. So I get it. On the other side of the ball, Chad, Jameis Winston, I see your note here, 101 giveaways since 2015. At first I thought it was a joke, and now I realize it's a real stat. So anyway, next closest quarterback since 2015 is Phillip Rivers with 82. And so, anyway, you look at this game, and Jameis Winston didn't have a bad game, 268 yards. That's kind of what we want from a streaming type quarterback. Just no touchdowns. So they couldn't get in the end zone through the air in this game. He didn't have a bad game, 21 for 33. On first completions and attempts. The head scratcher in this game, Chad, Peyton Barber had 17 carries and 2 touchdowns and was the lead rusher, and Jones had 6 carries, Chad. So 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks ago, you had Bruce Arians come out and say, Ronald Jones has earned the ability to be a bell cow back for this team. He's earned it. Instantly turns around 2 weeks later and goes, nope, Barber. So I don't trust any running back on this team. So you can't pick one to start. If I have Peyton Barber as my running back in fantasy playoffs, I feel very uncomfortable.
Yes.
I feel extremely uncomfortable also with Ronald Jones. So, I mean, there's nobody in this backfield I want. And then subsequently, it's this crap affects the passing game. So Winston doesn't throw a touchdown. So therefore, Perryman, Brashard Perriman
leads the team.
Was the leading receiver with 87 yards and 5 catches. Meanwhile, is Mike Evans, 4 catches for 53 yards, and Chris Godwin also 4 catches for 50 yards. So I don't know what to think here. I look at this game as just a fluke. You got to throw it aside. I think the team ultimately looks at this and clearly goes, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, we got to get these guys the ball.
Yeah, I hear that, Brian. Okay, and then moving on, we've got the Yetas and the Chiefs. That's right, the Yetas.
You got to do
ouch.
You got to do it right. The Yetas.
The Yetas. It was actually more of the very first one that I did. They weren't that impressive, like you had just said it there. It wasn't a good game for them. What came out of this that was good, Darren Waller, nice game, 7 catches for 100 yards. Josh Jacobs had 104 yards, and on 17 carries, that was 6.1 yards per carry. And Brian, he's the first running back to have over 1,000 yards for this team since Latavius Murray back in 2015. So Josh Jacobs looking good his rookie season.
Chad, the Raiders got beat 40-9.
Yeah, they didn't do good.
I just want to put that out there. This is ridiculous.
They did not do good. However, I mean, I'm trying to look at the good things from the team, Brian. Okay, I'm trying to be glass half. That's it, glass half.
Sorry to interrupt you, but we do have some news here that just came in from the Sleeper app. So running back Dalvin Cook is questionable to return in the game with a shoulder injury. He was down on the field. Also down on the field was wide receiver Stefon Diggs of the Minnesota Vikings. So that's not what you want to see going into week 14 of week 1 of fantasy playoffs. Oh, wowie. So BroMob will obviously we will monitor this moving forward. You want to stay tuned to the podcast for tomorrow, and then obviously follow us on Twitter and all that good stuff. We'll keep an update on this. But Chad, if Dalvin Cook is out and he's going to miss time, this is what we were talking about with owning the backup and having his handcuff. If you're a Dalvin Cook guy, unless your name's Chad Davidson, you probably made the playoffs. And so
or Brian, who also didn't make it with one of his teams.
Hey, relax. We don't need to go that far. So, but the point here is not good, dude. And so not good at all.
Yeah. Also going down are fantasy owners right now. They're hitting the ground in pure panic. So, get your claims in right now on Alexander Mattison as quick as you can.
If you're a Dalvin Cook owner, honestly, if you're right now at this point and you're a Dalvin Cook owner and you're in the playoffs and you don't have Mattison on your team, then shame on you. Mm-hmm. Because I think 4 or 5 weeks ago, Chad, we talked about this. Mm-hmm. He's a transcendent running back, and Mattison is also a guy that when he's on the field is electric. So, look, if you didn't get him and you let somebody else pick him up, or if he's still sitting out there, it's on you.
Yeah, both running backs averaging over 5 yards per carry. So, This team's good in general for the running backs. All right, Brian, we got to keep moving on here. Eagles, Dolphins. I have a note in here it's just laughing. BroMob, we're not shy about it. We're Cowboys fans. So to see where the Dolphins beat the Eagles was a very happy moment in my life. It was hilarious. Not only that, but to see Devontae Parker just go absolutely nutty on them, have his best game of his career. 7 catches for 159 yards, 2 touchdowns. Mike Gesicki, 5 catches, 79 yards, and a touchdown. Patrick Laird had a touchdown against them. Who? I don't know. This game, they gave it up.
Who the Gesicki is Laird?
What? Yeah. Good job, Brian.
Thanks, man.
On cue.
Thanks.
From the Eagles side, I mean, it wasn't all bad from a fantasy perspective. We had Miles Sanders, who looked like a lead bell cow, for this team. He 19.2, I believe it was, for fantasy points with them. He had a receiving touchdown, 17 carries in the game. Looked good. Alshon Jeffrey had a big game in this one, 9 catches for 137 yards and a touchdown. So points were all over the place. Just not enough points for the Eagles to win.
Yeah, Chad. And then moving on here, Packers-Giants game. So I think we had said that I expected the Giants to be competitive in this game, but they were not. Let's just be quite honest. The Packers won 31-13. Aaron Rodgers threw for 4 touchdowns. It snowed in this game, which was awesome to see until Fox decided to put a computer-generated football field grid over the field. What was that?
I have no idea.
What was that?
They were practicing something.
Whose decision was that? And B, did they get fired yesterday or today?
Whose decision was it to make it gray? A light gray over snow?
Yeah,
what?
I don't know, man. It's like they were like, well, the football field's normally green, so we use white lines. So if the field is white, let's use gray lines. That's my voice for
geniuses.
Him. So, yeah. And so anyway, it's just, I was like, what is that? That was actually more entertaining than the actual game itself. I take that back. It was fun to watch. I actually watched the majority of the game because of the snow, and it was fun to cool. It was coming down in the beginning of the game. It started with rain. Then you could see, I'm like, oh, okay, that's rain snow mix. And you started to see it get on the, set on the field. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be fun. Because as the game went on, it started getting cooler, and then the snow came. So fun game. Rodgers, 4 touchdowns, 2 of them to Devontae Adams. Had a couple people on Twitter ask us, Chad, through our start-sit recommendations, if they should sit Adams due to the weather. And I said, nah, I don't think you ever want to sit Devontae Adams.
No.
But B, no. So, yeah, hopefully those people listen. You didn't sit Devontae Adams. He went off. Saquon, 75 rushing yards, first time since week 2. Did not get in the end zone, but still had a serviceable fantasy game, Chad. Actually, I don't know where you got 75-plus rushing yards. He had 83. So I don't know why you didn't just write 83 rushing yards.
It's because it's the first time he's had over 75 rushing yards since week 2.
You shut up in your mouth. Anyway, Lazard looked good, had a good game, had 103 yards and a touchdown in this game. You know who didn't have a good game, Chad? I don't know if you know this guy. He's only one of the top 3 or 4 running backs on the season this year, and that's Aaron Jones. 11 carries, 18 yards. He crushed it. Thanks, Aaron Jones. Please don't do this to me in the fantasy playoffs. All right, so moving on here, we've got Rams-Cardinals. This was a game. Look, Kyler Murray had his worst game of his pro career in this game. It was not a good game for him. You also had on the other side of the ball, the Rams went off, and I think I called this. If I do remember, I said, "Hey, look, this is probably a game that the Rams bounce back." If you look at the Rams team, Higbee, 7 catches, 107 yards. The Cardinals can't cover a tight end to save their life. So if you have a tight end and they're playing the Arizona Cardinals over the next 2 or 3 weeks, you want to play them. I don't care what their name is. Just get them in the lineup. Woods, he's back. 13 catches, 172 yards. What? So huge game. Todd Gurley had 100 yards rushing, straight 11 in over 11 games now straight in a row. So straight. English Brian. And again, Jared Goff, big game, 400 passing yards, over 400 passing yards, 2 touchdowns on the day. So it was a really big statistical game for the Rams, and definitely put some nice fantasy points on the board.
Yeah, the craziest thing was that Robert Woods had 19 targets in the game. It's stupid. Absolutely stupid. Let's move on to the Chargers-Broncos game where Drew Lock got the start and got the win.
Yeah.
In his first ever career start against no other than the we lose to everything by one possession Chargers. Look, Drew Lock not only made the Chargers look silly, but made Brian look silly because Cortland Sutton went nutty. He had 4 catches, 74 yards, 2 touchdowns. I told you, Brian. Keenan Allen also had a good game in this. Actually, Phillip Rivers strung together a decent game, just not enough to win the game. But strung together a good QB rating. It was over 100 for him. Keenan Allen, 6 catches, 68 yards and a touchdown. Mike Williams has had 50-plus yards receiving in 7 of the last 8 games played, Brian. I mean, he's starting to get a lot of those bomb throws. He's catching them. I mean, he's getting used quite a bit on those deep balls. Let's move into the next game. We get the Browns-Steelers, where OBJ has fewer than 100 receiving yards in 6 straight games. That is the worst clip of his career. Oh, he must miss New York. But on the other side of the ball, we got Benny Snell, who, with James Conner out, is the lead back of this team and is very capable. He had a touchdown in this game, had quite a bit of yardage, and just looked capable of doing the lead back role. I mean, he's a hard-hitting guy. He's got enough speed to kind of keep it going. He's good in the passing game. So I like Benny Snell so long as Conner is out. And then finally, James Washington strung together another good outing. That's back-to-back good outings for him. And it just so happened to coincide with Devlin Hodges being there. With Hodges coming in last week, he got himself a big touchdown. And with Hodges in there this week, he got another big touchdown. So James Washington, a name to look for.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Chad, and let's wrap it up here. So the last game here on our docket, Patriots-Texans. And this game started off not so me gusta for the Patriots, right? Patriots on the road against the Texans and allowed 4 passing touchdowns in this game, which, by the way, they've only allowed 4 total in the last 11 games of the season. So pretty impressive for a team that or for an offense that has been able to score that many points against the Patriots is something you tip your hat to for sure. Edelman had a big game, which majorly came in the second half. 10 targets and in 7 straight games for him. He had 6 catches for 106 yards and a touchdown in this game. And Hopkins with a trick pass to Watson. I actually thought he fumbled it and Watson caught it, and then realized as they showed the replay that it was actually he tossed it. So I don't know how you look at that and how does that even work? Like, I'm just like, what?
I have no idea.
So anyway, but this was a game that Patriots dominated time of possession in this game. They rushed for more yards in this game. So, the game looked more out of hand than it actually was, I think. And look, if these teams play again, it's likely going to be in Boston, and I don't think the Texans can beat the Patriots in New England. So,
You mean Foxborough, not Boston, but that's okay.
Yeah, well, that's where Foxborough is in Boston.
Keep it down there. All right, BroMob, that is our Fantasy Weekly Recap. Let's get into our Genius Picks for the week.
Genius, genius, genius!
This week, I didn't have many. As a matter of fact, I have a total of 3 Genius Picks, BroMob. I'll start it off here, though, because they were good picks. I said to start Aaron Rodgers, who put together 28.2 points. He had 4 touchdowns in this game and absolutely went off against the terrible Giants team in the snow. Always comfortable in the cold. So I also said to sit Mark Ingram, who was going up against one of the top defenses in the league in the 49ers. He put up 7.2 points for you if you started him. And then finally, I said that Allen Robinson would be a sleeper for the week. And man, did he prove that right. 18.6 points. I mentioned his stats before. He had a touchdown, about a little bit over 80 yards receiving, in a decent game.
Yeah, Chad, I kind of finished out 50-50 this week, sort of, kind of. So Jared Goff, I think we called this. I said this is the week you want to play him. He didn't disappoint, 25 points on the day. Also said this definitely was the week you want to get Barkley in your lineup against the Packers defense, who have been gouged. Then you got the snow. He didn't get in the end zone, which was discouraging, but he still did well, 13 points in fantasy. I also called a sleeper pick, D.D. Westbrook. I said, not only did I say I liked the targets and the catches and that he was getting the yards, but I said, if you remember, he hadn't had a touchdown since week 1, And I said, I think this is the week where he gets back into the end zone. And he did that. He had a touchdown on the day. So 16.5 points from D.D. Westbrook. And then also called a bust play for Carlos Hyde. Said, hey, look, I'm not starting anybody against this New England defense. That will come back to haunt me in a minute. But Carlos Hyde, it didn't. 2.7 points on the day. Hopefully you sat Carlos Hyde this week.
All right, let's get into those dumb picks.
You blew it!
Well, I had myself a bad week. Let's start it off here. I said to start Le'Veon Bell, who, despite not rushing for 100 yards all season, I said that he would. And that would be my solid gold start of the week. BroMob got 8.7 points. So, I mean, he didn't put up a stinker, but he didn't put up a good game either. Also to start, DJ Chark, and that was another bad game. 5.7 points out of him. D.D. Westbrook was the guy in this game. The next guy proved me wrong on his first catch of the game. Kenny Golladay with the 75-yard touchdown to start the game off. End of the day was 23.8 points against what was a top 3 pass defense in Chicago. So David absolutely sucked the life out of Chicago defense like a vampire would. And then finally, I said to stream Daniel Jones, who I'm done with Daniel Jones this season. I don't trust him at all. In the good games, in the good matchups, he does bad. In the bad matchups, he does good. I don't get it. 8.2 points out of him this week. It just wasn't pretty. He had 3 turnovers.
Yeah, Chad. So I had a bunch of bad sits and starts. Actually, a lot of bad sits this week. My starts were spot on. It was my recommendations to sit players that were like not so good. And so one of those guys is quarterback Deshaun Watson, the Texans. I said, hey, I'm not starting anybody against this New England defense. Yeah, that was a mistake. 4 touchdowns. I think we just talked about it a few minutes ago. 28 points, 28.4 fantasy points on the day. Yeah, that was a mistake. So, which, you know what? I'll be honest with you. I would do it all over again because, again, it's the Patriots defense. They were on the road, in prime time. I'm really shocked. And I'm watching not Tyler Lockett go in for a touchdown right now.
Not DK Metcalf, not Josh Gordon.
Wide receiver David Moore, 60-yard touchdown catch. Lockett's dancing with him in the end zone, though. Thanks, Lockett. You have no catches for no yards right now. I'm losing my mind. Anyway, also said sit Leonard Fournette. Yeah, he punched me in the face like you do like he does to you when you say sit Leonard Fournette. 13.6 fantasy points on the day. This one is my kryptonite, dude. You told me last week, don't do it. And I did it anyway. Sit Cortland Sutton. He said, yeah, you think last time was a big deal. Now it was personal. 21.4 fantasy points. He slapped it right in my face. So that was a tough one. And it started right away. Like in the first quarter, he had like 14 points. I'm like, oh my God. So
it was hilarious because you said the last time, the only last time he had a touchdown was when I said to sit him that time. And guess what happens? You sit him again and he gets more touchdowns. I mean,
yeah, what are you going to do? So I don't know. Like, it's like the Chargers don't know how to cover him or something. Whatever. Anyway, stream Sam Darnold. Like you said, he did the monkey right out of the stadium. 10.5 points. Not terrible. I mean, no, it's bad. So never mind. It's bad. 10.5 points. This was the worst one.
Yes.
Okay. This was
also the most confusing.
Nope, it was not. It's confusing for the result. Yes. So my rock solid, gold plated, diamond crested, Arnold screaming stream of the week, Eagles defense. It was locked and loaded, BroMob. They were on the road against Miami. Everything was like lined up, like all the planets aligned, right? Arnold like ripped his shirt off. He's flexing his pecs. They were bouncing up and down. It was ready to go. Nope. -1 points, and the Eagles lost the game. Dude, what is this? What is that right there? What is that?
That is Devontae Parker scoring 2 touchdowns. That is a punter throwing a touchdown to a field goal kicker in the most bizarre play I've ever seen, and that is Patrick Laird.
I just don't know what to make. What? -1 point. So anyway, BroMob, those were my bad picks, and it's also looking like Tyler Lockett is going to be a bad pick.
I know.
Zero freaking catches right now.
I'm playing defense on you so hard right now in the underground league.
I'm down. Look. This is how tight it is right now. The current score in our underground league, and Chad and I are battling right now, 75.28 points to 78.66 points. All of Chad's guys have played. All of my guys have played, except for Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett, I need 3 freaking points from you, dude, and you got 0 right now.
I'm playing for first place. I'm playing that defense right now. Pretzel's lost. Pretzels, you got one hell of a team, but I'm about to take that first place. I'm playing defense. I'm Brian Hard. Tyler Lockett's going to put up a goose egg.
Here's the frustrating part, to be quite honest with you, if I'm kind of looking at everything, is I quite literally have the highest scoring team in the freaking league, and this is what's happening to me. I'm 7-5. I'm about to go 7-6.
It's tough. Okay, it's fantasy. The fantasy gods didn't like what you're doing this week. Whatever you're doing midweek, they didn't like it.
The famous Sheamus, did he win? No, he lost. Okay, good. Because if he beat me, or if he won and I lose to you, then I'd be out of the playoffs. I can't. I quit the podcast. I'm done. So I'm out of here.
I'm out.
Unbelievable.
All right, BroMob. Well, that is our dumb picks for the week. Let's get into those very valuable waiver ads going into the playoffs here. Starting it off, Brian, you go ahead and you put this one in. So I might let you have the glory.
Yeah, I'm gonna roll the first 4 here, actually. So,
okay.
Yeah, I'm just gonna take over. So, first 4 here. Number 1 is all you AJ Green owners out there. Stop dropping him, dude. Stop it. Because you know what's gonna happen is the guy that picks him up week 15 and plays him for 15 and 16 is going to win the championship. He's only owned in 66.5% of ESPN leagues. If you carried him this far, just keep him. Like, there's no point in dropping him. Like, he's literally, I just saw a report today, Chad, that his foot's no longer swelling when running on it, and that they're optimistic that in the next week or 2 he could play. So, I mean, just stop. Because he's going to be a guy that gets in and gets involved. Andy Dalton's going to be like, yep, I'm back from like 2012. And he's going to start slinging them to AJ Green. AJ Green's going to start two-finger catching them. And there you go. Done. Fantasy playoffs. So AJ Green, if he's out there on your waiver wire, you might take a flyer on him, grab him, put him on your bench because he could be a difference maker for you in the fantasy playoffs. Another guy here on this list, talked about him last week, D.D. Westbrook, wide receiver of the Jacksonville Jaguars. 61.1% ESPN owned, league ESPN league owned English. Every week, man, I have these episodes. I don't know how to speak. TD Westbrook. So, had a big game this week. Got in the end zone again, first time since week 1. He's got a really nice playoff schedule coming up here. He's a guy you definitely want to be owning. Get him on your team before it's too late. Another guy that has a really great playoff matchup, we talked about him during the episode last week, Chad, is quarterback Baker Mayfield. He's still out there in roughly about 40% of ESPN leagues. So the availability, he's only owned in 62% roughly of leagues, and he's got a great matchup. He plays Cincinnati Bengals. Look what Sam Darnold just did against them. That was a joke, in case you didn't catch that. So, but I mean, Baker Mayfield should have a really great schedule, and I think he's definitely a guy you want to own. And then this next guy right here, okay, you see all my notes on him. This is a guy that I talked about him in the beginning of the show. I'm so hot on this dude right now, and that is wide receiver Zach Pascal of the Indianapolis Colts. He's only owned in 24.9% of league. That means he's majorly out there. He's available. I picked him up in a lot of leagues this past week. Picked him up in our league of record. 14.4 fantasy points this week. T.Y. Hilton is right now currently, they are hopeful that he will return this season. Okay? Go get this guy now, because when Hilton was out earlier, he was blowing up. He had great games. Here's his playoff schedule starting next week. Tampa Bay, they're the worst against the pass. okay, allowing the most points against wide receivers this season. New Orleans, they're allowing the 9th most against wide receivers this season. And then the Carolina Panthers allowing the 13th most against wide receivers this season. He has a very favorable playoff schedule, and he's going to be a guy that I believe if Hilton does miss all 3 of those games, he's a guy that I think will make a huge difference. If not, if Hilton's just out one more week, that game against Tampa Bay next week, Chad, could catapult you to your conference championship game. So Zach Pascal's a guy you do not want to let him just sit there. Go get this dude before somebody else does, and they use him against you.
Yeah, I hear that, Brian. And the theme here, BroMob, you're going to see there's some names here that are a little bit out of the whack, but this is kind of what happens in the playoffs every year. There's those couple onesie-twosie wide receivers, running backs, whoever they may be, that go off, and they win you the championship. That's who we're predicting those players this week. So we'll move on to that. But first, I'm going to hit you with David Njoku, owned in only 21.2% of leagues. He didn't get the designation that we were hoping for. He didn't come off the IR this week, even though he practiced and everything. But he's going to play. They're going to bring him in at some point. And when they do, you need to have him on your team, BroMob. We've mentioned it before. I don't need to get too much into it because David Njoku, he's an otherworldly talent. Rashad Penny with the 2nd touchdown of the game. Looking good. Looking real good. But David Njoku, you got to get him on the team. Another tight end that you should be looking at, Ryan Griffin. We talked about him before, I think it was last week. This guy's getting targets from Sam Darnold, and he's getting targets in the red zone. That's the biggest thing. He had a good week this last week, and the week before he had a good week. And the week before that, he had a good week. He's getting used quite a bit. They paid him some money, and now they got to justify why they paid him that money. So Ryan Griffin, I like him a lot. Brian, I'm going to talk about this next guy, and then I'll hand it off to you for the last 3. But here's a name not so many people will recognize. Russell Gage, wide receiver of the Atlanta Falcons. Look, Calvin Ridley is kind of like that wide receiver 2 on the team, right? Whereas the Falcons have always used a slot receiver, whether that be Mohamed Sanu in the past or players like Justin Hardy, who they've had in the past as well, that's done well in the slot. Russell Gage is that guy now. With Sanu gone, up in New England, he's got 5+ targets in 3 of the last 4 games. That's after Sanu has left. And he's getting used all over the place. I like Russell Gage as a possible flex play going into the playoffs.
Chad, I got a great nickname for this dude. I've been chomping at the bit to interject here.
Well, I hear
we're
Gage.
We're gonna call him Rage Gage. The Rage Gage. The Rage Gage.
I love it.
Oh my God.
I absolutely love it. That's the first thing that I've loved out of your mouth for a long time.
You're welcome. Russell the Rage Gage.
Why don't you Rage Gage the next 3 players here, Brian?
I'll Russell Rage Gage your brains. So here's the deal. Bo Scarborough. Okay. You don't know his name? Now you do. Running back, Detroit Lions. Okay, go get him. Going to be out there, readily available. A lot of leagues. Deebo Samuel, another guy, wide receiver of the San Francisco 49ers. Look, had double-digit fantasy points in the last in 5 of the last 6 games. So this is a guy that's getting targeted. This 49ers team starting to throw the ball a little bit more. And, with Sanders being kind of out and limited and drawing some coverage, Samuel is kind of mopping up on the back end, right? And so I like him. And then another guy, he really had a great game against Chad in Dynasty League. Chad was really happy to have the other guy.
Mad.
Yeah. Devontae Parker, wide receiver of the Miami Dolphins. He's had 10 or more targets in 4 straight games. So this is a guy that's getting a lot of looks, a lot of targets, and targets tend to lead to receptions, and receptions tend to lead to yards, and yards sometimes will lead to touchdowns. That's how it works, BroMob.
That all adds up into points. And ladies and gentlemen, you've been taught how to fantasy football in week 14
that's right.
of football season.
It's funny. We were talking about doing a fantasy 101. We just did it. Just take that snippet and put it on the website. There you go.
That's what we're going to do. We're going to take that 5 to 10 second snippet of you explaining how points work, and we're going to post that.
That's right. Devontae Parker fumbles it. Guess what, BroMob? You lost a point, okay? That's
sometimes 2 points, depending on the league that you're in. 101. Now we're talking 102.
Oh my God.
102 courses. All right, BroMob. Well, that's going to do it for today's show. Be sure to tune in every Tuesday and Wednesday to stay up to date on the fantasy football world and to gather any insights on how to dominate your fantasy football leagues.
That's right, BroMob. And one last ditch reminder, okay? Head over to jointhebromob.com, become an official BroMobster. We've been working hard all year for you to give you some great fantasy advice. The majority of it's been pretty solid. We've had our misses, but everybody's human. We do make mistakes, but we try to own them, right? That's why we do these episodes this week. So head over to jointhebromob.com. It's just Chad and I. Any support you can give us would be great. And become an official BroMobster right now. Jointhebromob.com.
If you're not on Apple Podcasts, maybe you're listening to us on YouTube, somewhere where you can't just easily listen to us in a car on your commute, maybe. We're also on Spotify. We're on Google Podcasts. We're on Stitcher. We're on iHeartRadio. You name it, BroMob, that's where we are. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at FF Podcast, and be sure to check out our website, thefantasyfootballbros.com, for all kinds of articles, rankings, and so much more. See you tomorrow, BroMob.
Bye, everybody.